Hello everybody and welcome back to this off-season event in TTL. My name is Kieran McGinley. We're going to be taking you through Spa-Francorchamps. Now I don't know how much of the previous sort of hour or so you've actually seen or footage. Maybe I'll edit some of it in. We saw the Gort taking a very interesting driving line. We also saw lots of things happen, including Traw getting some air on the first lap heading into the wall. They've all been down to server issues. This is the third time we're attempting this, so I don't know how much of it you've seen before. What I will say though, it is a 100% race, 0 qualifying, random grids, and we will see for the third time lucky whether servers are actually going to hold together for this 100% race. So yeah, we'll go through the grid and the race after this edit. Let's have a look then for the random grid. So we've got Weed Nation on pole, Maze is in second, Little Piece third, Beastie is fourth, Geordie fifth, Raikkonen sixth, Traw's in seventh, Blaster eighth, Steph is in ninth, Darren Sinclair 10th, Z3 11th, Spike is in 12th, Crazy 13th, the Gort 14th, and Alan K is down the field in 15th for these random grids. So we will have a formation lap where we can talk about everything that's happened really and look out for drivers we need to keep our eyes on. So then, Weed Nation. He's the man on pole and we have to watch out for him. Maze is in second as well, as it will be very, very tight, very compact coming into turn one here, into La Source. As we've got Raikkonen as well, finishing 5th in the season last time out, beaten by Darren Sinclair, who has been disqualified from the session apparently. Crazy Legs as well getting disqualified from this session, as we see the Gort there as well, as we see cars vanishing before our very eyes to the front of the grid. But anyway, Spike starting down in 12th place. Obviously these are random qualifying sessions. Sorry, not random qualifying sessions, random grid here. So all of this means that it will just shake up the field a little bit. As we see Darren Sinclair in 10th there, Spike is in 12th, Crazy Legs 13th, and we have Traw is in 7th as well. So we have a very interesting prospect on our hands here. 44 laps for the third attempt at trying this. We are going to be racing at Spa-Francorchamps, and we'll have a look at the tyres. Geordie's the only one starting on the ultra soft tyre here, so pretty interesting shout from him. He's looking to go aggressive. Beastie's on the soft tyres. He'll be looking for a long first stint, as is Steph, as is Z3, and as is Spike. So they're all looking to try and extend their first stint as long as possible. Geordie then maybe trying to fight through his way through the traffic towards the front of the grid and try and blast away for a couple of laps, as the Ultrasofts don't last very long around Spa. Weed Nation then heading towards the line now, as we will see now what is going to happen. Random grids, and nobody could have expected to put Weed Nation on pole here, so we will see what happens. Nothing bad intended about any of the drivers here. We're just going to see a hectic first corner with the regular front runners at the back of the grid. So we shall see. We shall see how this all plans out and all plays out too, as we will get to the race start. There's Weed Nation. He'll be looking to try and get away. Maze as well, looking to try and get his way to the front of the grid. But now we are going to be heading towards the start. So here we go then. 5 red lights here in this European Challenge Cup. Lights out and off we go. As we see now, look at this now, look at them all disperse and trying to get in front. Weed Nation blocks off Maze here, the Mercedes, as the Ferrari makes contact with the Mercedes. And does everyone else make it through okay? I think so, as we see now the flurry of cars making their way through. Little Piece there, Geordie now, we'll see right on board with him if anyone goes off, and looks like it's all clean for now. So Weed Nation in the lead, and Steph is out of the race. Oh my goodness, was that involved with Crazy Legs? I think it was, as Crazy Legs has lost his front wing. Steph is out of the race now. And I'm not entirely sure what happened with Crazy Legs, as Darren Sinclair finds himself around. We've got bits of debris flying up ahead, as Plaster's off the track as well, as is Traw. Did they try and go for a gap that wasn't there? We'll never know now. Alan Kay now trying to go down the inside of Z3, and Z3 does have front wing damage though, so keeping out of trouble for Alan Kay has worked well, because he's up into 10th place. Darren Sinclair in 9th, the Gort now in 8th, Spike is in 7th, Beastie in 6th, Raikkonen 5th, Mays is in 4th place, we've got Geordie in 3rd, Little Piece in 2nd, Wheat Nation still leads the way though, and he'll be under threat from Geordie here, who is on the ultra soft tyres, looking to try and be as aggressive as possible. As they go through now, and it's very easy on the left hand side there to just hit that tyre wall, especially if you've got worn tyres as well. Here comes Geordie then on the back of Little Piece, and we shall see what happens now. Little Piece then going down the inside, is he? Yes, he is. And will he make the move on Little Piece? As Geordie now will go to round the outside. He's got the grip there, surely, but not quite. Little Piece stays ahead for now. Meanwhile, though, Mays is on the back of Geordie, and he's got some defending to do from Raikkonen as well. As Geordie looking to try and go down the inside, Mays is trying to go round the outside, and no dice as we see the McLaren there of Beastie run wide. Gets a slight tap from Gort there, and Darren Sinclair will be licking his lips at this opportunity as they head through Eau Rouge and Radion. As we've got Z3, Crazy and Plaster all into the pits for this 100% race to repair damages. Darren Sinclair then, as he's trying to make his way through, as we see the Gort, Spike and Beastie all trying to go side by side with each other, as Spike locks up slightly and keeps the car in check. Darren Sinclair then moves up into 8th place. Meanwhile, Spike is on the back of Gort. He's now trying to get up into 6th now. The Gort goes defensive as they head through turn 10 now. A little bit of contact there, did I see? As I was trying to look at the track map to see where they were, as we see now Spike trying to make the move stick, but not quite. No dice at the moment, as Darren Sinclair has just gone straight around the inside of Spike there. Maybe a loss of traction there, and he just didn't get the car moving. And Spike now finds himself down into 8th place. We've got Raikkonen then right on the tail of Mays, ready to pick up on any mistake Mays will make. If he does make a mistake, of course, using Racecraft to try and put some pressure on Mays. As we can see there, all the cars flurry through, as this has been a much better start so far. The Gort then trying the back of Raikkonen, and we'll see now what happens here, as he did try and go around the outside, but going through Blanchimont side by side isn't the best way to do it, as Raikkonen here trying to look on the back of Mays, as no, not quite here, as well, that is a huge move from Beastie there. I'm not entirely sure what he was going to do there. I don't think he had enough brake power to stop even himself from getting that move done, but he finds himself with a 5-second stop-go penalty for that move, so he finds himself as well down the order from that, maybe just a little too eager to try and get past. And it is like that in the early few laps. You just want to make progress, but it's all about settling down for a 100% race. It takes a while to get used to things, as now Darren Sinclair on the back of the Gort here, as we have a move up ahead, as Raikkonen makes his way past Mays. Does he? Yes, he does. Raikkonen leaves the door open round the outside though for Mays to try and get through, but Raikkonen holds his own, and Darren Sinclair and the Gort here looking to try and make a move down the inside of Mays. The Gort looking at the move, not quite though, but he's got to be careful about Darren Sinclair behind him, and we will see here what will happen here. The Gort trying to close in on Mays. Meanwhile though, Darren Sinclair is also trying to have a look as they go through Pouhon, and the Gort runs wide there, and Darren Sinclair sees this as a perfect opportunity to try and go around the inside, then becomes the outside, and well, it's the Gort here trying to make a move, and we will see there Darren Sinclair move up a position, and Spike here is now going to try a move on Gort here, and we will see now what is going to happen as the Gort loses the back end, keeps it in check though, and Spike is going to have a great move and a great opportunity to go down the inside, going through Blanchimont. They're going to go side by side now as Spike here holds his own. The Gort as well is trying to hold his own. The Gort runs wide and Spike takes the position, and I don't think there was a lot the Gort could have done there as Spike lets him back through as they go side by side going into the chicane here, and good sportsmanship from Spike there, but I did think he had right of way there. I thought that was a fair move, but Spike didn't think so. He's let the Gort back through. Draw then gets ahead of Beastie, and Beastie's gone off track again as he runs wide again. He decides to come into the pits now and hits the wall. Interesting line through into the pit lane then. Meanwhile then, we're on board with Spike then as he makes his way around Eau Rouge and up and through Radion, and the Gort here has a chance to try and defend from Spike once again. And Spike here very sporting to let him back through. Meanwhile though, up ahead we've got Little Piece fighting with Geordie over third place. Behind him Raikkonen and Mays, and also Darren Sinclair. They haven't finished fighting yet, that's for sure, as Darren Sinclair looking for an opportunity to try and get round the outside. Not quite though, as we will see here Raikkonen try and make a move, try and defend himself. Meanwhile then, the Gort and Spike still battling over 7th place, as we'll see here Spike try and make a move. Didn't quite work out. Darren Sinclair meanwhile is still on the back of Mays. I've got too many battles to worry about. Crazy getting past Z3 there. Meanwhile then, Darren Sinclair, look at this train here. Raikkonen, Mays and Darren Sinclair. Mays here looking at Raikkonen. Raikkonen went wide, and we'll see Geordie as well trying to go down the inside of Little Piece. That didn't work, and he finds himself in 3rd at the moment. Raikkonen 4th, and we see there, Darren Sinclair getting very close to the wall there. Very close. Any closer, and I think he might have just taken his tyre out. And, well, that is a huge relief there for Darren Sinclair, and I think he can count himself very, very lucky there. Geordie then into 3rd place, and he's chasing down Little Piece. He's been fighting for him for a while now, but those Ultra Softs aren't going to last much longer. If he's going to make the move, he needs to make it now. As Mays here, we'll see him on the back of Raikkonen. These guys are closing in on Geordie's battle with Little Piece as well, so he has to be careful not to let these guys through either. Meanwhile then, Z3 and Crazy Legs trying to make their way back through the field, as is Blaster, and we'll see Blaster emerge. There he is, as all of these three got caught up at the very start of the race. Mays then on the back of Raikkonen. Darren Sinclair as well, trying to have a move. We see Geordie up ahead get the move done on the Ferrari of Little Piece, but Raikkonen holds his own and stays ahead of Mays. But meanwhile, this is inviting Darren Sinclair to have a move up the inside, is it? As well, Mays for the moment keeps that position and keeps ahead of Darren Sinclair. Alan Kay then right on the back of Spike, and Spike here making up time here, but he has fallen behind the Gort again. So Spike here having trouble trying to stay ahead, rightfully so, because the Gort is on the super soft tyres, and we will see here this battle. Ooh, fantastic voice break there. We will see this battle emerge as Little Piece here falls into the clutches of Raikkonen here on the super soft tyres. Geordie then doing a good job so far. He's trying to get a move done, and Crazy Legs has retired from the session as he's hit the wall coming into turn 10. Now, is that just him losing his braking point there? I think Z3 was the other driver involved, was it? I'm not quite sure. For whatever reason though, Crazy Legs is out of the race. Spike then in 8th place, making his way and making his move on Gort as he locks up both tyres as he heads through the chicane. We're going to see now a load of battling here as Darren Sinclair looking around and trying to see if he can get down the inside of Mays. He can't, and Mays here will be looking to try and defend. But look at this train now, going back from Little Piece here. We will see going up through Eau Rouge and then through Radion. We'll see now all these cars emerge, and we'll see now Darren Sinclair on the back of Mays here. And what can he do here? That's not an excellent camera angle I need to be looking at. This one's even better, as Darren Sinclair looking for the opportunity to try and get past Mays, but not quite. And we will see here Raikkonen as well closing in on Little Piece. The Gort as well as this is a lovely camera angle to see it all from. The Gort trying to make his way onto Darren Sinclair and just trying to get his braking marks right. Spike knows at this point it's not much point battling the Gort right now. They're on different strategies, but well, with the Gort making a mistake like that, it's all going to be too tempting for Spike to try and make a move, is he? Thought about it and doesn't quite. Meanwhile, Darren Sinclair battling with Mays. Mays ran wide going through the entry of Puon, and we'll see now Darren Sinclair looks to try and get the move done, but can't. Meanwhile, Spike then is trying to get past the Gort. They're running side by side, and I wish I could get a good camera angle to try and show that. Spike loses the back end on the exit of Puon, but keeps it in check. And sorry, going at the exit of turn 14, I should say, as we've got yellow flag and we've got Raikkonen up ahead. Raikkonen is caused in an incident there, and well, I think he got caught up with Little Piece there, as the two of them maybe went side by side through turn 16. And did Raikkonen hit that wall we said that was just going to be a nightmare? It seems too far down to be that way. Whatever reason though, Raikkonen is out, and Little Piece here is going to try and make his way into the pit lane, and he does. So, well, this has been a huge race so far. Little Piece finds himself into the pits much earlier than he thought, and Raikkonen here is out of the race. Spike then looking now at Darren Sinclair, who is looking at the back of Mays here. Into the slipstream he goes, and looking down the inside, is he? Darren Sinclair on Mays, down the inside he goes, but can't quite get the move done, and Darren Sinclair stays behind for another lap. Spike then looking and watching on, seeing if this battle emerges anything good for him. If Z3 and Raikkonen was a battle to go by, anything can happen right now with these randomised grids. We'll see Mays here trying to defend as hard as he can from Darren Sinclair. Only a few opportunities you can take at Belgium to overtake at, but that doesn't mean you don't have to not try. As we'll see Sinclair here looking and seeing if he can get a wider line in turn 14 there, and they've made contact, and the two of them make contact. Darren Sinclair is now out of the race. Mays there, I thought, just got a little bit too much oversteer on the curb. He's gone into Darren Sinclair. Sinclair's had nowhere to go, and in the same place where Steph took him out to say restart the race, it's happened again, but this time Mays has done it by complete accident, I would say. Well, we've got Darren Sinclair out of the race, Crazy out of the race, Raikkonen out too, as well as Steph. So all the big hitters are dropping like flies. If you're an underdog in this championship, this is a chance for you to get a good result heading into the next season. The Gort then, on the back of the Renault of Spike, as Spike now finds himself into third place. Draw is now up the field as Little Piece retires from the session. He's crashed out as well now, and that angle is very, very peculiar to have lost it like that. But we will carry on. The Gort then on the back of Spike here, as we're on to lap 8 right now. We've got 10 drivers left in this race, and it's all about just settling down now and making sure you just get to the end of the race now. Obviously no points available today, but that doesn't mean a good result wouldn't go amiss. It really helps your confidence going into a new season. Spike locks up going into turn 10 there as we head through turn 11. And Little Piece has also left the session, so that confirms that he was no longer in this session. So we're going to have a period of calm now as Spike runs slightly wide there. We'll see the Gort maybe try and think about a move. Weed Nation, though, still leading the way as he loses the back end slightly there. Geordie's there in second place. Spike is in third. The Gort's in fourth. Alan Kay is fifth. Traw is in sixth. Mays in seventh. Z3 is in 8th, Blaster 9th, and Beastie is in 10th place. We're going to ride on board with the Gort then as he closes in on Spike, coming through Blanchimont now, and then through turn 18, No Name. And we'll see here if the Gort can try and make a move. As you can see there, the Renault of Spike locks up once again. That may be just to the lag, but we will see the Gort here have a really good chance of trying to get past Spike. And normally drivers just get close to the gearbox of the car ahead, going into La Source here, and try and get a good run out here to try and optimise the line through Radion and Eau Rouge and onto the Kemmel Straight. But we will see the Gort here. How well does he take Eau Rouge? He takes it nice and clean there, and Gort here opens his DRS, and you can see instantly Spike here trying to get out and trying to get the Gort not to use his slipstream, and it has worked this time, as Spike finds himself still in front of Gort right now. Meanwhile, Beastie and Plaster fighting over 9th place right now as they head towards the line. And we will see here, will Beastie have a go around the outside here? I think he will, on Plaster. And Beastie here is on the super soft tyres, Plaster on the soft. Plaster runs too deep and doesn't get a good exit out of La Source. And Beastie there finds himself up into 9th place as they head through Eau Rouge and Radion. The Gort then, still trying to chase down Spike, as that is the battle for the last place on the podium. Meanwhile, Geordie's doing a fantastic stint on these tyres right now, as the Ultrasofts don't usually last this long in this sort of race, but well, he's doing the job right now as he's closing in on Weed Nation, and on those Ultrasoft tyres you would expect so, but they will wear out at some point, and will it catch Geordie out, I wonder? Geordie's a good driver, so it shouldn't catch him out, but he'll know when those tyres aren't going to perform anymore. As you can see though, Spike is closing in on Geordie this time around. Did Geordie make a mistake at all? As he's 1.8 behind now. Gort then is in 4th. He's only 7/10ths back from Spike. As that battle for the podium starts to heat up very early on, and of course we're not at the halfway point yet. Of course, it's a 100% race, so we've still got a while to go, and we shall see what happens during the race. So Weed Nation still leading the way. Geordie is in 2nd there, and we can see Spike in 3rd place, defending from the Gort, who finds himself in 4th place. Alan Kay is in 5th. Traw is in 6th place. Mays there is in 7th. Z3 in 8th. Beastie is in 9th, and Plaster is in 10th place. Now, some of the drivers here were discussing how to get through a 100% race, and some of them were saying to get some energy drinks. And whilst that may help your reactions, you're going to have a crash at some point, as we see a car running wide there, and that's Geordie up ahead, I believe. Yes, it is. And Spike goes side by side with him. Geordie loses time there, and maybe those tyres have finally had it, as Spike finds himself around the outside of Geordie there and moves up into 2nd place. There goes Weed Nation. Spike, Geordie and the Gort there go through the camera shot there. And, well, Geordie now, is he going to try and come into the pits? Meanwhile, Traw on Alan Kay, will he do the same? Traw is on super soft tyres, as is Alan Kay, but it's all about the pace on them and how much you've taken out of them. Geordie then finds himself in between the Gort here and Spike here in that battle, and Geordie does come into the pits. Meanwhile then, Traw is trying to have a look at Alan Kay, and he'll take a wider line going through turn 20, try and get that apex spot on, and he has. Look at this now, he's side by side with Alan Kay as he heads towards La Source. Alan Kay still has the inside line. Will he try and use it? No, he doesn't. Traw then moves himself up into 4th place, and that is a great move from Traw. Good racecraft. He finds himself up into 4th. So yeah, as I was saying, some of the drivers have energy drinks beside them. They have, they just have that full concentration. While that may help your reactions, it will certainly not help towards the end of the race when you're feeling a little bit like you're going to crash. In terms of a mental sense, the willingness to keep going and to keep that car on the track is all important. And we'll see here, Alan Kay trying to have a go at Traw to try and get that position back. But it's all important about the consistency. You may have all the pace in the world, but there's still 44 laps of this 7-kilometre circuit facing you. So how on earth do you do it? Well, the simple thing is, it's just... It sounds easy, but it's not. It's just to clear your mind. As you head into a race like this, you have to be really positive and ready to change a strategy at any moment when it comes up. As we see here, Spike now trying to close in on Weed Nation. He started on the soft tyres, and normally it's good to start on the soft tyres in a race like this. You'll start to get the super soft tyres towards the end of the race, and that will really help as the track really does start to rubber in. Meanwhile then, Spike is on the back of Weed Nation, and in terms of pit stop, you normally get around 16 to 18 laps on those super soft tyres before they really start to go away from you. You can normally get away with a lot longer on the soft tyres. I'm not entirely sure how much longer, but I think it's around 20 to 22 laps, as we'll see there. So if you can get a one stop, go for it, but it's very, very difficult to do that. But of course, tyre wear is down here. Of course, as if it's a 100% race, you will see that the tyre wear is down. And simply put, drivers will be able to push for longer. If you have an ultra soft stint at the end of a 100% race, it's going to be more effective than it is in a 50% race. It really is an entirely new way of thinking. You have to think about, you know, not making the move as soon as possible as you would in a 50% race. You do have the time to take your time, assess where the driver's slower, and you can actually make a move when it's the right opportunity, rather than when it's the most convenient for you. You can choose your moment much more leisurely as you start to cruise around the circuit. Towards the end of the race as well, you're going to have that fatigue set in. It's all about keeping your mind on the game, no pun intended, as you look to try and get to the end of the race. You just want to be able to get towards the line, and in a 100% race, getting to the line, just finishing one of these races is a challenge in itself, because you start to fatigue. You know, if you're using a wheel, your arms start to ache very slightly. Even if you're using control of the palms of your hands, they can get sweaty. As we see, Beastie Kid here is out of the session, and he's into the wall with some force, so much so that his car is just still shaking from the aftershock of that. I'm going to move away from that camera, because that is that's enough to get you sick just watching that camera. But we have another retirement for the race. We're down to 9 drivers. But the Gort here now on the back of Spike, as we're closing in on the race leader, Weed Nation. We'll see here, the Gort here gets a good run out of Radion and into the DRS zone on the back of Spike. Does he have a chance to try and get past, of course, Spike on the soft tyres? As we move through now, Spike on the back of Weed Nation. We're going to ride on board with him. And into the slipstream he goes, into turn 10. All important not to lock up there, as you can't run wide through there. You've got to keep it tight to the curb as you run through into turn 10, then through turn 11. And Spike has got a good run out of there. Weed Nation less so. And we'll see now coming through Huon that Spike here still on the back. And he's got the move. He's got side by side now with Weed Nation as he brakes later going through, and Spike takes the position from Weed Nation. Weed Nation vulnerable now because he's got to try and defend from the Gort here, and he makes contact with the oversteer he makes, and the Gort here has just got to be careful. He's got to time this right because now Spike's getting away, but he does have the time to do it. It's all about just keeping your nose clean in a race like this. Don't make any unnecessary moves. Wait until the right moment. And we'll see here the Gort trying to find a way past Weed Nation. Is he? Down the inside he goes. No, he thinks about it. And Weed Nation brakes earlier than maybe Gort was expecting. Maybe a slight tap there from Gort onto the gearbox, but nothing major. As we'll see now, the Gort here is going to try and make a move. Down the inside is he? Down the inside he goes into La Source hairpin. And does he get the good drive out? They're going to be side by side now. And you've got to make up your minds at who takes Eau Rouge. The Gort is ahead. Weed Nation drops back in before Eau Rouge, which is a wise idea. And the Gort takes second place in this race. Weed Nation, though, will not take that line down. He will have DRS heading down the Kemmel Straight. And what can Weed Nation do? Will he have a move down the inside? As Spike goes through, the Gort there, no, as Weed Nation stays behind, and he will try another time around. The Gort there picking himself up a 3-second time penalty. Weed Nation is he's had a bit of practice at a 100% race before. In fact, earlier today he did, and he got good experience there, and he's looking to take that into this race. He finds himself in 3rd place right now. Chora is there in 4th place in the other Force India. He's looking to recover from a shaky start to this race. Alan Kay was 15th at one point during this race. He finds himself at this point in 5th place. Geordie then was running as high as 2nd in those ultra soft tyres. He lost the position to Spike and decided then to pit in onto some some fresh super soft tyres. It'll be interesting to see what tyres he goes on to the end of the race. He pitted around about lap 10 to change onto some super soft, which takes him up to 26 laps. So he might put on a set of soft tyres towards the end of the race. Mays then in 7th place. He finds himself lapping around just on his own at the moment, but in these 100% races anything can happen, and as we've seen, it normally does. Z3 here finds himself in 8th place right now in the Ferrari, and Plaster, after a dull day so far, is in 9th place at this moment in time. Weed Nation still on the back of the Gort, but coming out of La Source hairpin, he hasn't got the right grip and right traction out of there, as Geordie sets the fastest lap of the race, 1:49.9. We're into the 49s now. So as Weed Nation here heads into the DRS zone, Geordie is going aggressive, and well, he'll be catching Alan Kay anytime now. Anytime soon he'll be catching Alan Kay. So the Gort here is in 2nd place, still trying to chase down Spike for the lead of the race, and we shall see what happens there. Just to sort of a pre-warning really, that round 1 I am afraid I won't be able to cover it, so no season opener, but we will be back this time next week for the 2nd round in China for season number 8, and of course I will give you a sort of rundown of the drivers table after round 1, and we'll go through the change of teams and whatnot. Apologies that I can't be there for the 1st round of the season, but it's just a little bit of a break I need to have, so I do apologise for that, and the timing of the break isn't great either, but it's just stuff I can't go into right now, but there we go. I think I might have said too much already, as Plaster here is out of the session, and that is, yeah, well, that's an odd place to go off. That is coming into turn number 7. So did he get his braking point wrong? Well, either way, Plaster is out of the session, he's out of the race. So then the Gort still trying to chase down Spike, because we're now down to 8 drivers in this session. As well, it's been hectic. It's been very interesting as we head towards onto lap 16 now. And well, we have a bit to talk about. We of course have some sort of championship standing battle off. We see Spike here ahead of the Gort, and Spike of course had a good finish last season. He will be hoping to try and repeat that feat later on in the season, as of course we'll be able to give you a sort of round number 2 roundup of everything, but we shall see who can come away with a race win. So Spike runs slightly wide there, but that might have been just to try and get an optimum line on the exit. But that's going to invite Gort to try and make a move, as we shall see what about happens here. Spike locks up, and the Gort runs slightly wide. And Geordie here is closing in on Alan Kay. You can see now, drawing him in, and we shall stay on board with Geordie for now. 1.5 behind, and we shall you can see how close Geordie is actually closing in, and he's closing in at a rate of knots right now. He's now 1.3 as Weed Nation comes into the pits from 3rd place, as he will now go into the pits, and we'll see what sort of strategy he's going to run today. So into the pits he comes. And on go, another set of super soft tyres. Away he goes. And so he will have to stop again. And I'm assuming now he'll try and go to the softs for the end of the race. Either that, or he's going to try and go to lap sort of 32. Maybe try and extend that stint a little bit more and go into a set of ultra softs at the end. Meanwhile, though, we have Geordie closing on Alan Kay right now. And we shall... we're going to see how this battle is going to develop. As this is the battle for 4th place. As Geordie here is showing a good amount of pace. As in the qualifying session, he qualified well, but it was well over an hour ago since that qualifying session, so I can't remember where he qualified in that session first time around. Of course, this is the 3rd attempt because of server issues. Meanwhile, though, Geordie is closing in on Alan Kay and closing fast as well on those new super soft tyres. You can see how much more grip he has as Alan Kay runs wide, and Geordie takes all of the curb there and maybe slightly more as he gets slightly airborne there. But Alan Kay can just hold on to that position just a little longer, but he's got to leave some room on the inside, and Geordie has found a way past Alan Kay and moves himself up into 4th place. Good move from Geordie, great battling by these two. But I don't think it's over just yet. If Alan Kay can get the exit right here, he might be able to have another go as they head towards Blanchimont. And Alan Kay's lost it. He's lost it completely there. And he might have lost just the back end there. Has he got any damage? That's the thing. He might do now that he's hit the wall. But, well, disaster for Alan Kay there. He ran wide. Maybe lost the back end, just spun up those rear tyres, and that was it. Traw, meanwhile, is into the pits. Away he goes, and he believe is put on another set of super soft tyres, so he still has to make a stop as well. So it's all coming together with strategy in play. Strategy comes more into its own into a 100% race as Weed Nation goes through there ahead of Traw as he gets away and starts to pull away as we head towards Eau Rouge and then through Radion. Nagort then running slightly wide, but he is falling away from Spike as Spike seems to have a good strategy on him, going on the soft tyres to try and elongate that first stint. We will see now what can happen as we will see how this will all unfold. In a sort of 100% race, it's more about strategy. The overtaking on track actually sort of hurts tyres and hurts your chances of getting into a lead. It's all about picking the exact right strategy to get you through to the end of the race. Now, of course, Belgium here, you kind of want to avoid the ultra soft tyres. Z3, though, setting the fastest lap of the race, 1:48.9. You sort of want to try and avoid the ultra softs here whenever you can, because the tyre wear on this track is so harsh that, of course, 7 kilometres with the ultra soft tyres per lap was never a good idea from Pirelli, but they did it anyway. And we shall see now Traw catching the back of Weed Nation. That is the battle for 4th place, and as Traw closes that gap more and more, Weed Nation here may have a hard time trying to defend from the Force India. And through turn 18 they go towards the old bus stop chicane, which is not really the bus stop chicane, as on the circuit map it just says chicane now, so that's how they see it. But Williams versus Force India in equal cars, we shall see what Traw can do onto Weed Nation. Lap 19 of this race, Spike leads the way, the Gortz in 2nd, Geordie 3rd, Weed Nation and the Traw fighting over 4th here. Meanwhile, Maze is in 6th, Alan Case in 7th, and Z3 is in 8th place. So we'll see here, Traw trying to catch the back of Weed Nation as into the DRS zone he goes. DRS wide open, and is he going to try and pull towards him now? He is closing and closing. Got to pick the right moment for Traw here as he gets onto the tail of Weed Nation. And of course, heading into Season 8, Traw, look at this. Look how much pace he's got on those new tyres, as we will see what will happen between these two. A bit of news to say that Heimkarl, who has been a bit of a TTL regular throughout the seasons, has decided to take a reserve driver role heading into next season, which is such a shame. such a shame to see Carl drop away into the reserves, but you know, when time and work becomes the main priority, these guys at the end of the day are just here for a bit of fun, and when work becomes the priority, that's when we see these great drivers start to drop towards reserves. As we see now, Z3 has retired from the session. Z3 has got it wrong down the straight. That's about halfway down the straight. So, well, we're now down to 7. Riding back on board with Traw then with Weed Nation. Lap 20 with only 7 drivers. We've got a lot of battling to do, I hope, towards the end of the race. So we shall see what happens with Traw here, as he's going to try and move down the inside of Weed Nation. He is. A true Ricardo style move. Dive bomb down the inside. Weed Nation here has a better exit coming out of La Source. And Traw and Weed Nation are going to go side by side going through Eau Rouge. And Traw decides to back away, and rightly so. You don't want to go too wide going through Eau Rouge and then through Radion. So Weed Nation here, does he have DRS? No, it's still with Traw. So Traw here is going to maybe try and move down the inside once again, thinks about it, but no, he holds his own and stays behind for now. Alan Kay is into the pits. He's gone onto a set of ultra soft tyres, as he's going to try and do a Fernando Alonso for a bit and just try and set some fastest laps. As we'll see here, this is allowing Mays actually. Is he closing in on this battle? As we'll see sort of telemetry now, he is falling away. As Traw here on the back of Weed Nation. Does he keep the car in check? And oh, that's a big moment for Traw as he loses the back end. Well held, Traw. As well, he just lost the back end there. Just stepped out on him. Well held indeed. And he's just going to recover, keep that composure, and start again to get down from the gap to Weed Nation. So, Spike still leads the way. The Gort is in second place. Geordie is in third place there as he mounts the curb. Weed Nation is in fourth. There he is in fourth place. Traw then is in fifth as we wait for him. There he is. Mays, there he goes in the Mercedes. He's in sixth place. And Alan Kay is in seventh. The Gort then makes his way into the pits and puts on a set of soft tyres. And now he's going to go to the end of the race. And where will he rejoin? Does he rejoin? He rejoins behind Weed Nation. What about his teammate? His teammate now is heading into La Source as he's going to head around that pit exit. Look at that. Not very far away at all. And Traw is going to keep closing in on the Gort here as they head through. Well, Traw here is going to have a better line through here, because through the pit exit you don't actually get the speed you need to get through a good enough gap. So Traw here, our team order is going to be in place. Traw is on the faster tyre. Will the Gort plan to let him through or not? It is a challenge car. The points don't matter. You do get a medal for first, second and third added to your name on the TTL honours list. But for a fight here, it seems to be free-for-all. So these two are going to keep fighting, I think. So the Gort runs slightly wide, very close to the wall there. He's got to keep those tyres in check till the end of the race now. So he's got to keep that. He's got to keep that car in check as well. Running wide like that on the curbs isn't going to be. It's not going to be a good way to keep those tyres in check. So we shall see. So we've had Challenge Cups before, I think. No, actually we haven't. Or have we? No, we haven't. We've never had a Challenge Cup before. This is the first one. They sort of go in a rotation for European, Asian and American, I think. If I'm wrong, correct me. But yeah, so this is the first really of its kind where we have a 100% race. As the Gort there loses the back end, and Traw is able to power through. Into La Source they go, and I think the Gort's going to be pretty annoyed at himself there for losing that back end. As we now head towards Eau Rouge and Radion. So we do have a couple of drivers. We do have some of the drivers here we can go through for next season. As the Gort's still trying to close in on Traw. So Spike will be staying at Renault for season number 8, so he leads the way right now. Geordie is also staying with Haas, staying loyal. He'll be with Haas next season, along with Littlepiece as his teammate. Should say that Spike has a new teammate in Steph next season. Weed Nation stays in Williams as well. Currently doesn't have a teammate, but he'll be looking to try and get Williams up the table once again. As Traw here, I believe, Traw is moving to McLaren next season. So in that fantastic orange and black livery, he'll be leaving Force India behind and heading to McLaren with Frank Dunk, who is not here today. The Gort is also moving from Force India. He's moving to Ferrari, as Ferrari have been having a shocking season last season, not finishing high up the table at all. So he'll be hoping to lead the charge back up the constructors' table. Mays is staying with Mercedes. He'll be alongside new champion, or two-time champion, I should say, Crazy Legs for the new season. Crazy going back-to-back in this season, so Mays will be joining up with him next season. Expect them to completely have a hold on the constructors. Alan Kay, if I look at my little table, is going to... I can't actually read the table at the moment. Toro Rosso, is that? Yes, Toro Rosso. So he is staying put in Toro Rosso. As he finds himself maybe 31 seconds behind Mays, but he's going to keep pushing because we've had a load of retirements right now. We'll go through the full table when we get to it, but some major moves. Pazels now moves to Sauber from Ferrari. As well as that, we've got Darren Sinclair moving or staying with Toro Rosso. Raikkonen and Plaster staying put exactly where they are in Red Bull. We've also got... yeah, I think that's it. Beastie as well. He moves to Force India. We do have three spots free, 3 permanent spots free in TTL. But we'll get onto that in just a minute because Traw is looking to try and close in on Weed Nation now. Having got past the Gort, his teammate, looking to try and close in on the Williams man here. So this is for 3rd place now for a bronze medal in the Challenge Cup. And is Traw going to have a look now? We've passed the halfway point in this 100% race at the European Challenge Cup here at TTL, as we start to get towards the sort of crunch time, as Traw stays behind Weed Nation for now, and we'll look to focus to get turn 20 absolutely spot on. And with Weed Nation now in the slipstream he goes, and takes to the inside line, has a look into the Lassour's hairpin. Is Weed Nation going to give him the space? He does, but that also means Weed Nation gets a better exit, does he? He runs slightly wide, and Traw here is looking for a way past. Surely not going side by side through Eau Rouge, and they don't. They do not go side by side. That is not a place to go side by side. But you'll see here, Traw still on the back of Weed Nation. Look at this, darting left and right to find a way past. I think Traw is side by side with Weed Nation here as they head towards turn number 7 through Lacombe, and Traw has just about made that move stick. Weed Nation falls to 4th place as Traw makes his way up into the podium. So as I was saying before, there are 3 spaces free in TTL, as if you do want to join this league as a permanent driver or maybe as a reserve driver to race when you want, here's the man you need to contact on the PS4. So if you do want to do that and you're a clean racer, you can go for a trial and we'll see how you can get on. Meanwhile, speaking of the devil, Mays is 10 seconds behind the Gort and is starting to close the gap, is he? Maybe minuscule, but he's working away at that gap for now. That is a sort of real-time gap, so we'll see what happens there. Weed Nation then still being chased down by now the other Force India of the Gort. Meanwhile though, Spike, the race leader, is into the pits now to change up some strategy. Looks like it's going to be 2 super soft stints to the end of the race now, or maybe just the 1. We have seen people extend the stint to about 18, maybe 19 laps. So Spike here onto the super soft tyres. This may be a till the end strategy, a 1 stop. So Spike dropping down the field, of course, as you would during a pit stop, and he rejoins right behind the Gort there to join onto the battle with Weed Nation. So Spike then, look at him for a fastest lap in about 2 laps time as he warms up those tyres. The Gort then onto the back of Weed Nation. We'll see him now go into the DRS zone, DRS wide open as he looks to try and close that gap. And we shall see what will happen now. The Gort still onto the back of Weed Nation. Weed Nation running slightly wide, not taking a great line through Lacombe there. Lacombe. I'm not entirely sure. My French is not that great. As anyone who is free to correct me, please do. As I'll only butcher the names of these corners sometimes. But here we go then. Spike as well, closing in on the Gort as we head in towards, well, we're at the halfway mark there or thereabouts, and we see a car up ahead. Now, is that Troy? I believe it is, as he starts to pull away. Weed Nation takes a wide line going through turn 13, sets him up poorly for 14, and then he's got to keep it clean through Stavelot, as we'll see Spike there right on the back of Troy now, and we're going to have a three-way battle for the podium right about now, as we'll see what is about to happen. Weed Nation leading the Gort and Spike in this battle for third place right now, and the Gort here is going to have a look around the outside. Is he? No, he'll switch to the inside. No, he doesn't. Stays behind for now, as does Spike, and we will see a real attacking display from Spike as he looks to try and get back in front. Geordie leads the way at the moment. Troy is in second, up ahead from them, and they're not that far ahead either. So Mays here is 10.9 behind this battle, so he'll look to try and close the gap when he can. Weed Nation though, through Eau Rouge they go, and that's such a brilliant corner to go through Eau Rouge. It's absolutely amazing. As now the Gort here is into the slipstream of Weed Nation. Does he have a look down the inside? He does, and backs out of the move, and so does Spike does the same. So these three battling away is allowing Troy and Geordie to try and get away slightly. The Gort's still trying to have a look down the inside. He does. Does he make contact? I think he just about kept his front wing out of trouble there. As now Spike having a look down the inside as well. And of course their battling allows Troy and Geordie to get away. And we see Weed Nation run wide there. Troy's got the perfect opportunity to go side by side with him. And Weed Nation trying to stick it down the inside. He doesn't. He can't quite do it. Troy gets the position and he moves up into third place. Meanwhile, then Spike on board with him. Weed Nation's not had enough though. And he'll be looking to try and make a move on the Gort if he gets the chance. As they're still not giving up on this one. Weed Nation not giving up on this battle as Spike is right behind him. Look out for Spike next season, of course, as he now goes down the inside as they make contact going through, Blanchimont there, heading towards turn 19. Heart in mouth moment there for both of those drivers as they look to try and get a position or try and protect the position in terms of Weed Nation. Spike down the outside, going into La Source. And Weed Nation tries to take that inside line, but he runs way too deep, and Spike gets that position. He moves up into fourth place now, and for Weed Nation, just left his braking point slightly too late, and has lost all that time, and finds himself now down into fifth place. Spike then chasing down the Gort. That's his next target now, and we will see what can happen now. So there is the Gort in your picture now, and Spike is chasing him down as best he can, and this then is for a bronze medal at the moment in this Challenge Cup, as Spike here you would think will find a way past, and well, you can see the smoothness of the wheel there, you can see in the picture, means that Spike is actually using a racing wheel. Some of the drivers in this series actually use a controller, and it's much more difficult to be as precise as Spike is, and that leads to maybe more tyre wear and everything like that. You can be more precise with a wheel, but obviously maybe it's a little bit more draining as maybe that force feedback starts to come into play as the Gort runs wide and Spike takes that third place rather easily from the Gort, as he does run wide going through turn 15 into that entry of 16, and not worked at all. Meanwhile, up at the front, this is the battle for the race lead. Geordie leading Traw at the moment, and Geordie, well, that ended quickly as Geordie comes into the pits for what I can only assume now is his soft tyre stint, as Traw sets a 1:48.5, I believe that is, I think, on the wing mirror there. So Geordie comes into the pits, he falls behind Spike and the Gort. On go another set of super soft tyres, of course, because Geordie's run the ultra softs at the start, so he can just go onto the super softs now, and he'll now try and go to the end of the race on those tyres. So good strategy so far from Geordie, as he finds himself in front of Mays as well. He does find himself a way back from Weed Nation, but here comes Mays though, because of that pit exit. You get a compromised line going through Eau Rouge and Radion. So Mays here, does he have DRS? He does have DRS there on Geordie, so he's got to be careful here not to fall behind Mays, and we'll see what happens there. Traw then leading the way at the moment, although he may have to stop again. Spike is in second. We have an inkling that was his last stop of the day. The Gort there is in third. Weed Nation is in fourth. Geordie there in fifth. Mays is in sixth, and Alan Kay is on the ultra soft tyres. He's in seventh place right now. So Traw here is looking to try and mount a title challenge next season, as of course he did finish third in the final standings, on 196 behind Spike. So he'll be hoping to try and mount a title challenge this season. Of course, Crazy Legs just had a dominant season on scoring 287. It was a truly dominant season, almost 70 points ahead of any other driver. To be precise, it's 68 points ahead of any other driver. So that was a huge lead. Of course, Sauber as well took the constructors' standings, and so Sauber took the constructors' standings, as we'll see there, Crazy taking that trophy, as well as Frank Dunk, I believe, who takes the constructors, as he scored the most points for Sauber when he was there. I believe that's how it works, because I doubt Crazy Legs scored all 406 points for Sauber with 287, but there we go. As we see Mays coming to the pits now, he emerges on the super soft tyre. As we head into the closing stages of this race, we see Traw in the lead, Spike is in second there, and the Gort currently in third place. Well, it looks like the ball's in Spike's court for now in this race. Of course, the runner-up in Season 7 will be hoping to get a serious title challenge on his hands going into Season number 8. And it's all different now. I would be talking about Darren Sinclair if he was in the race. Had a fantastic form in the latter half of the season, taking a win at Brazil. But we will see what happens in the new season. Of course, anything can happen in Formula 1. In the words of Murray Walker, normally it does. We've got 7 drivers in this race at the moment, and we'll have a look at Mays here, who on board with, finished 6th last season on 157. It was a good season for him. He finished in front of his teammate Steph, but they are splitting up now. Steph, of course, moving on to Renault next season. Mays will be joined by the champion Crazy next season, so that's going to be an interesting battle here between the two of them. Will Mays become a number 2 driver? I highly doubt it. Mays is going to put his own out against the championship winner, 2-time TTL season winner. Let's have a look at Weed Nation. So he is pretty new to the scene of league racing. He's never done a 100% race before, that's for sure. He's doing really well out there, and currently in 4th place for Williams right now. And if you remember Williams last season, they finished 7th in the table. So Weed Nation here will be hoping that he can better that result. Currently hasn't got a teammate for next season, but I'm sure he'll be confident in scoring a good amount of points for Williams next season. Geordie here in 5th place for Haas. Haas scored the least amount of points during the season, 45 points, compared to 79 of Ferrari, who finished in 9th. So they have a mountain to climb, but Geordie here seems to be the man to do it. He's been a consistent point scorer in the latter half of the season. So Haas will be hoping he can take that form forward towards Australia, China, to get a good start as he's closing in now on Weed Nation. Haas will be delighted to see that they've got a good driver on their hands, and they'll be able to try and make their way up the table. Of course, it might be very harsh to say that they've got a good driver on their hands. Normally, some teams have reserve drivers and they're consigned to that. But meanwhile, though, Traw then is into the pits from the race lead, and it'll be interesting to see what tyres he puts on. If he puts on the Ultra Softs, I think he might have made the wrong decision. And he does put on some Ultra Softs. Now that is risky. He's still got to do 14 laps on those tyres, and that's going to be an extreme amount of pressure to put on those tyres. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll be proved wrong, but he's going to find that the Ultra Softs start to lose performance around about halfway through the stint he wants them to. But you know, I've been proved wrong before, and I can easily be put wrong again. Geordie there is now closing, very much so, on Weed Nation. Weed Nation again finding himself back into the podium, as I believe Traw's stop means that it's only Alan Kay left to make a sort of scheduled stop. So I don't think Alan Kay is going to make it to the end on those sets of Ultra Soft. Geordie then is only 4/10 now behind Weed Nation, so we're going to jump on board with these guys and see how the battle goes as they head around turn 11 now. And Geordie loses the back end very slightly there, loses that momentum going forward, and has lost a lot of time. But Weed Nation runs wide. Can he just keep it in check right now? He can, and or both of them lose time, and both of them now back basically where they started this battle, around about 4/10 away from each other, as Weed Nation doesn't get the corner right, going through turn 14, now through 15 into Stablo, and Weed Nation here has got a chance of defending from Geordie here. But how much will he defend against him, as we will see what happens here. Geordie then looking and seeing if he can get that opportunity. He'll go down the inside, going into turn 19, locks up, and Weed Nation still down the inside. He's going to put up a fight here. They make slight contact there as they do that, but Geordie finds himself up onto the podium once again, and Traw here on the Ultrasoft, of course, has a much better pace than both of them combined. So they're going to be, it's going to be one to watch now, as Traw now onto the back of Weed Nation, as Weed Nation again starts to find himself falling down the field, but he can't be too disheartened with that. He's got Traw, who finished, of course, third in the standings behind him. So he's holding back third place man last season behind, as Alan Kay comes into the pits for his last stop. So he can't be too disheartened, I think. Weed Nation's had a good race so far today. Traw goes down the inside, going into turn 10, and very difficult to defend if you're on the outside, especially on worn tyres. Traw then moves up into 4th place and can now start to try and hunt down Geordie for 3rd place. So Spike still leads the way. The Gort is in 2nd, Geordie is in 3rd, Traw is in 4th there, Weed Nation is 5th, Mays is in 6th, and Alan Kay comes out of the pits and he's in 7th on a new set of Ultrasofts. Well, we can have a look at the stops everybody's made today. We can see Spike and Gort there on a 1 stop, as Weed Nation also had a 1 stop today. And we'll see if he can do that. There's the position changes. It was a random grid, remember, but Spike has done really well, moved up 11 places. Alan Kay as well has just kept out of trouble and has got himself up to 8 places. The Gort, though, without a doubt, has had a shining race today. We're on the back of Weed Nation. There comes into the pits, as one can assume he'll be onto the Ultrasoft tyres, as he looks to try and defend now from Mays for 5th place. So then this has become a battle for 3rd place between Geordie and Traw, we'll get some details up for you here. As yes, Weed Nation does go onto the ultra soft tyres, and it'll be interesting to see if he can emerge in front of Mays. It looks like a battle on the pit exit. As let's see what happens here. Weed Nation there. Yes, he has got ahead of Mays, and way ahead as well. So strategy there for Weed Nation, just to change tyres and see if the guys ahead can maybe get into a little bit of a battle that brings him back into it. So this is the battle for the last podium spot as the clouds start to cover the track. Of course, I don't know what the weather's going to be like or whether there's going to be a weather change. So I'm in the dark about all of this. The drivers aren't though, as Traw trying to look down the inside of Geordie. No dice though. Mays also, oh, he's lost it. Did he come into contact with Weed Nation going through there? Maybe he tied the side pod there. Alan Kay retires from the session. He decides he's done for the day. As Mays there, does he have front wing damage? I don't think he does. Heading through poo on there. No, he doesn't. So he's got away with it. Meanwhile, then we're down to 6 drivers. As Traw here, can he make a difference? As he's going to go try down the inside, going into turn 19 on Geordie, and Traw gets himself a 5-second stop go for that corner cut. As now he's got to try and make a move now and try and get 5 seconds ahead of Geordie just to take the podium position. Looks down the inside again, down the inside of Geordie into La Source, and Geordie will have a better exit. He's taken the wider line, but they're going to be side by side now. Don't go side by side through Eau Rouge, and Geordie just backs out of it. He knows how crucial it is to just be single file through there. You can't go too wide through there. It's a recipe for disaster. And Traw then finds himself up into 3rd place now. Geordie though is still behind him, and he's going to put up a bit of a fight here as we head towards the latter stages of this race. We're 3/4 of the way through this one, and Geordie here maybe starting to fall behind, understandably so, on the super soft tyres compared to Traw's ultra softs. Spike here, of course, has been a driver's champion before, and we'll see if he can get that coveted double coming into season 8. We shall see if he can mount a serious title challenge against Crazy this time around to try and stop Crazy getting his 3rd driver's title and making him the most successful driver in the series. Of course, Tractor Man is also the only other double world champion, or double TTL champion. So Crazy could look into this season as becoming the most successful TTL driver of all time. As that's not a bad title to have, is it? As Geordie finds himself falling away now from Traw. 10 laps to go. Spike leading the way. The Gort now is in 2nd. Traw is in 3rd. Geordie 4th. Weed Nation in 5th, and Mays is in 6th place. Only 6 runners from our original 15 in this 100% race. Incidents galore. Steph retired on the 1st lap. Crazy and Raikkonen got themselves up into a little incident, or was that Raikkonen down Sinclair? It's been such a while ago. Little Piece lost it into the wall, as did Beastie. And Plaster lost it. That's it. Plaster lost it on the Kemmel Straight, although it was a very odd place to lose it, as did Z3. And Alan Kay there just decided to retire from the session. Either that or he got disconnected from the session. So, lots has happened in this race, and as you can tell, I've never really had to do a 100% race before, but 6 drivers left. Half of them are walking away with half the runners you see today are walking away with a medal from this race. So there's all that opportunity to still keep pushing, because you never know, with 9 laps to go, 10 laps to go, you never really know what's going to happen in this race. But Spike finds himself 4.9 clear of the Gort for now. The Gort finds himself 4.0 clear from his teammate. But Traw on the ultra soft tyres will be looking to try and make a nuisance of himself to his teammate towards the end of this race. Geordie then is going to be in a race on his own, I think, for the remainder of the race. He just needs to keep his cool and hope that the Force India boys maybe run into a bit of trouble. Weed Nation is in 5th place on the ultra soft tyres, and he's had a good race, I think, today. As Traw sets the fastest lap of the race, 1:47.3, obliterates that previous fastest lap, and looks on his way to try and chase down the Gort now. 3.6 separates him from the Gort, and that gap is only going to decrease as he is on fresher ultra soft tyres compared to his teammate on old soft tyres. So we will see now what's going to happen towards the latter stages of this race. 9 laps to go now as Spike still leads the way. The Gort's in 2nd, Traw is in 3rd, Geordie 4th, Weed Nation 5th, and Mays in 6th place. It's very difficult to commentate over a 100% race, especially with only 6 drivers, but last season we had 29 drivers in the season, so that was incredible, including a shot return for Tractor Man, who raced in 1 race and scored 7 points. So sorry, no, that's not possible then, is it? He must have raced in more than 1 if he scored 7 points. But yes, Tractor Man did come back, and it's been a successful season for many of the drivers who've come here. Z3 though didn't score in the last season. But that's of course, he didn't race in many. Beastie got 2 points, as well as a Little Piece as well. As Koppel as well didn't score any points, as we shall see here. If I'm just scrolling through my phone right now to just get some pictures up for the season ahead, as Z3 heads to Ferrari next season. So he'll be hoping to get a partnership in with the Gort as Traw sets another fastest lap, 1:47.1, as he's obliterating the time between him and his teammate. 2.4 the gap is now. 8 laps to go. So we will have ourselves a little bit, I believe it's 8 laps to go. 7 laps to go. My apologies. 7 laps to go in this race, as it's been a demanding race for these drivers. A 100% race around Belgium is always going to be tiring, especially if you've never done a 100% race before. Just keeping the consistency throughout the race is key, and not long left for these drivers now before they get their well-earned rest and drink afterwards, I'm sure of that. Traw still closing on the Gort here. 1.9 seconds separates him from his teammate, the Gort, as he closes in more and more and more. Going through Pouon there, as he looks to try and keep closing that gap, as heading through now into turn 13 and 14. As I'm looking to try and make a sort of highlights video for this one as well. Obviously this thing advertising the highlights will not be in the highlights, if that makes any sense. But yeah, a lot's happened in the sort of first quarter, and then it's sort of been strategy and trying to play the long game as well, as you would in a 100% race. So I am thinking of trying to get an edited version of this race out, so that if you don't fancy watching the full 100% race, which I think you're mad for not doing, because you know any devoted fan would, we can get you an edited one and you can watch that one instead. That's something I'm going to try and start to do in season 8, to try and well, basically, if you don't want to watch the entire race, which I've already said you're mad for not doing, you can watch the edited version. Meanwhile though, Traw is closing in on the Gort now, 0.8 of a second away. Can he work his magic now? Into the DRS zone he goes, and on his teammate now. They fought earlier on in the race over position, but can Traw have the final say in this one? 6 laps to go, as Spike. Sorry, it is 7 laps to go, or is it 6? I don't know. I've lost my mind in this in this 100% race, if I'm completely honest with you. Traw though does have a plethora of penalties to be added on as well, so he's just got to try and get ahead of the Gort now and try and move as far ahead as possible. This is why it's not over till it's over. The Gort runs slightly wide, and Traw rather easily takes that position away from him. The Gort here maybe just doesn't have the same amount of grip that Traw has, and Traw here gets ahead and away from the Gort there. Well, the question is now, can he close in on Spike? 5.8 separates them, and with 6 and a bit laps to go, it's entirely possible. The Gort then is still in the slipstream of Traw, as he still look to try and make a way past, and we shall see as he looks to get through turn 20, gets the better line, and behind Traw now, as we'll see now what can the Gort do. 5.3 now separates Traw from Spike, so are they going to look to have a little bit of a teammate helping here? Is Traw going to try and drag the Gort closer to Spike? Well, who knows? It is a bit of a free-for-all there, as we see. I believe that was the heart of Geordie there in the background there. But the gap is 5.3 with 6 laps to go. So it's going to have to be around about 0.8 of a second per lap that Traw has to take out of Spike just to catch up. So it's a big ask. It's a tough call, but we could be looking at a grandstand finish if Traw still has the tyres towards the end of the race. The Gort then is sticking around with Traw for a lot longer than maybe he should be. He's doing a really good job on those soft tyres, but he is starting to fall back away from the DRS gap now, and Traw here can try and start to close the gap. It's now down to 4.8, and we'll see now Spike will cross the line any moment now to start the sort of 5 laps to go as he goes through Blanchimont now into turn 18, No Name, and Spike here. It hasn't been an easy race, that's for sure, and I'm sure all of these drivers at the end are going to be absolutely exhausted. And Spike now coming through turn number 20, heading towards the start-finish straight. 5 laps to go now. They're almost there, and the Gort here is actually catching up to Traw. As you can see there, Traw gained around about 0.7 of a lap, so that's a good amount of pace there for him. 5 laps to go, and he's 4.6. So we'll keep an eye on that gap. As the Gort there, 1.8 now behind Traw, so he has fallen behind, and you would understand why as well. As Geordie here, can he try and have a late charge on the Gort? I think he's falling behind. I don't think he will. But of course, we have penalties to take into account as well, so Traw may be able to catch him. But if he hasn't got enough pace, and if he hasn't got enough of a gap between him and Spike, he's going to find himself very much down the order when all the penalties come into play. Of course, that's a common thing in TTL. Very strict corner cutting rules here. I mean, it's 3 strikes and that's 3 seconds. So it's very harsh. And that's why the penalties towards the end of the race add up significantly. So Spike here still leading the way, as Spike hasn't put a foot wrong in this race. He still leads the way. 4.6 still the gap between him and Traw, as Traw now is going to start to experience the tyre wear that the Ultrasofts are only going to bring him. They're still faster than the Gort's tyres, but I don't think they're going to be enough to catch Spike now. As he heads towards the start-finish line, he's going to have to make sure that he's a second a lap quicker, maybe even more than that. So those tyres are wearing, and he knows it. That doesn't mean, though, he's going to throw everything at it. I think he is. 4 laps to go. 4.2 is the gap between Spike and Traw. Spike can see him in the wing mirrors now, and you might be able to see them in the same shot, and you do, just about there, as Spike now heads through Eau Rouge and then Radion. We head towards the closing stages of this race. Spike leads the way, Traw is in second, the Gort is in third place, Geordie is there in fourth, Weed Nation in 5th place, and Maze is currently flying in P6. So Spike still leading the way, and this is only going to help his momentum heading into the new season, as we'll see here Spike taking turn number 10 very nicely, and through 11 as well. As like I've said, Spike really hasn't put a foot wrong in this race. 3.7 the gap between him and Traw. As Traw here needs to get the gap built, because he could be losing the podium spot with the penalties he has. Of course, I don't know the penalties really until we get to the end of the race. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. And Traw here still trying to push on and catch Spike. But as the laps pass and time passes, it looks like that gap is just not going to be quite enough for Traw to close down. Spike then heads through Blanchimont and through turn 18 as he now heads towards 19 and 20. Locks up maybe slightly there. Round turn 20 he goes. Now 3 laps to go, and you can see Traw here is just falling away, and it's not looking good for him. 3.4 now, the gap between him and Spike. It's just looking a little bit more and more uncatchable. But the Gort here is staying within a good window, I think. 3.5 behind, and Geordie there is now 3.4 behind the Gort. So maybe Geordie here has a final push and could make his way up the field through penalties. And we'll see towards sort of the final lap. We'll see here. Weed Nation still putting in the laps here. He's already done one 100% race at this exact track today, so he'll have a well-earned rest and drink, I think, after this one. Mays is in 6th there, which is, when all things considered, isn't a bad result at all. To be one of the only 6 finishes of a 100% race is very commendable indeed. Spike then still leading the way, 3.0 separates him and Traw, and again that gap is just being maintained by Spike here. He knows that Traw's tyres aren't going to last all that much longer. For Traw here, it's just all about pushing as hard as he possibly can in order to get that position. For Spike though, it's still looking good. 2.9 the gap now between him and Traw. But again, Traw is not closing that gap as quickly as he maybe would like to. 2.8 separating them. Spike maybe locking up again. That may be the game though, as you can see Traw right there, as penalties will have a big say in this. Spike then heading towards the line, 2 laps to go, and Traw is 2.7 behind. It's a huge ask. You're looking at 1.4 seconds just to catch up to them per lap. 2 laps to go then of the Spa-Francorchamps circuit, and this European Challenge Cup is looking more and more in Spike's favour. Of course, we don't know penalties, so that could all change when everybody crosses the line. But on track, Spike really hasn't he's just been pushing on and started well down the field, has managed to get himself back up into first place. Of course, it was random grid, so there's nothing that you can do about that. As you can see there, Spike getting a 3-second time penalty at the bottom left of your screen. And all of that will come into play towards the end of the race when they cross that start-finish line. You can see Traw now down to 2.3. So now down to 2.1. So Spike has made a mistake there, which has been rare from him in this race. But he'll be looking now to just try and concentrate, gain his composure once again, and look to just try and get ahead as much as he can. Traw then still in second. 1.9 now separates him and the race leader. The Gort there behind, 4.4. Geordie is 2.8 behind the Gort. Weed Nation has lost it, is onto the grass, just keep it, it's not long to go now. He has hit the wall, you can see a bit of front wing has come off. And Mays here might be smelling blood. He might be able to catch him here, as Weed Nation will have just too little downforce maybe to get him through some of these corners. And Mays, who may be 14 seconds back, might be able to have an opportunity here to get 5th place off of Weed Nation. Drama for Weed, and he needs to just keep that car on the track now as we head on to the final lap of the race. Spike still leading Traw by 1.3. And you know what? I was saying before that maybe it wasn't doable for Traw, but it looks like here, 1.3 behind, I'm not so sure anymore, as Traw just about keeps it within track limits there as he gets into the DRS zone, but he doesn't have DRS, of course, as penalties will add up here. It's just a shame that I don't know who has what as Troy here still on the back of Spike. Not let him go that easy. And Troy has been keeping these tyres absolutely spot on, all stint long. Weed Nation starts his final lap of the race. Mays has 10 seconds to find if he wants to catch him. And I don't think that's going to be doable. Weed Nation here just needs to keep it on the track, gets himself a 3-second time penalty. That goes in Mays' favour, as he's just lost that front downforce. The bit he needs is crucial around Spa. And if he's lost it there, then he will find himself getting into Mays' clutches. Spike, though, as he comes through the second sector into Stabilo now, entering sector 3 and through turn 16, avoiding that tyre wall for the last time. As we now head through up towards Blanchimont, it's been a heroic effort from Troy, but with only a couple of corners to go, it's looking bleak. As Spike now makes his way towards the chicane now, into turn 19 and 20, locks up for good one last time, and now Spike heads around turn 20 on track. He does win here in Belgium. Troy then finishes in second, 4 seconds behind with penalties. The Gort finishes in third. Geordie there jumps the Gort for third place. Geordie finishes in third place in this one. Weed Nation then coming towards the line. He's still in 5th place, and with penalties he just needs to try and keep it on the track. He's going to have to lift off, and does, as he heads through now towards the last corners. And Mays here has done a heroic job as well. They all have, all Titans. Weed Nation comes across the line to take 5th place on track, and will that be enough though? Spike though, as we'll have a look at Mays and see if he jumps up the grid at all. And he doesn't. He stays in 6th. So your winner of the European Challenge Cup is Spike UK. Well, it's been a demanding race, but thoroughly enjoyable. And Spike takes a well-deserved victory in this Challenge Cup. "15 started this race and only 6 finished it. Spike takes the win home from Troy and Geordie, who finished in 3rd place with not a single penalty. Now that can't be looked down on at all. The Gort there finished in the end in 4th, Weed Nation in 5th, and Mays in 6th. That does it then for this Challenge Cup here at Belgium. Thank you for joining me, and if you made it all the way through this 100% race, I congratulate you. That was absolutely fantastic. And all of these drivers here today deserve a well-earned rest and a drink maybe. But that will do it for me for Season 7. Season 8 starts on Thursday, and this time I'll be recording on a Tuesday right now. I won't be there for that one, but we will be back this time next week for round 2 of the season, which will be at China. Until then though, I've been Kieran McGinley, you've been watching. Take care of yourselves, and until China, I'll see you soon.